Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies. I am your host, Millennial Meditations, bringing you the week's worth of important news in a short time frame. Now, with that being said, this video may be my longest one yet, so stick around because we've got plenty of clips to show, plenty of things to talk about, and all that good stuff. So, if you like this video and this content, go follow me on all the different social medias. Especially if you're watching on Rumble, or I'm sorry, on YouTube, you might want to go over to Rumble for this one because it's going to get a little spicy. And before we get into the news, just a little housekeeping off the top. Last week, my audio sounded horrible. I know that. I am using an AI program with NVIDIA Broadcast this week. I've done a couple test runs with it so far. It all sounds pretty good to me. So apologies in advance if there's any weirdness with it. The program is a beta. It is in beta testing right now. So I guess I'm doing some free beta testing for them. I don't know. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into the news. So this first story is one that happened here locally for me, but it has caught some national media attention. And that was the fight that took place outside of the Cincinnati Jazz Festival last weekend. Um, Now, the video clip that has gone viral that I'll show here in just a second um, was filmed after the festival was over, but there's some context that needs to be added. So I'm going to play that one first, and then the one that's gone viral after that.
Hey, these niggas is funny playing the Russians.
Oh yeah, sleep him, yup. Get him up out of here. Get him up out of here.
My boy Trump. Damn. Wake her up! Damn. Help her up! Whoa!
Now, this is obviously pretty bad. It, it definitely is something that didn't need to happen, but we'll get into that here in just a minute. After this happened and this caught some national media attention, the Cincinnati police chief blamed social media and journalism for the brawl instead of the men involved with the entire situation, as seen here.
Another topic I want to cover real quick. Social media and journalism and the role it plays in this incident. And yes, guys, that's you. That is you. Social media, the post that we've seen, does not depict the entire incident. That is one version of what occurred. At times, social media and mainstream media and their commentaries are a misrepresentation of the circumstances surrounding any given event. What that does, that causes us some difficulties in thoroughly investigating the activity and enforcing the law. Because what happens, that social media post and your coverage of it distorts the content of what actually happened. And it makes our job more difficult. Go ahead, right here.
Thank you. 2 questions. Where were the nearest officers?
In the central business section. They were working. They were both in vehicles, and like I said, they had to maneuver through the traffic.
My second question is, you had said social media, news media distorted the content of what actually happened. What exactly was distorted? I understand that there was multiple views of the video, but exactly what led up to this? I mean, what was distorted?
Yeah, so I think by the irresponsibility with social media is it just shows one side of the equation quite frequently without context, without factual context. And then people run with that. And then it grows legs and it becomes something bigger that we then have to try to manage as part of the investigation. So hold on.
On top of that, a city councilwoman who goes by Victoria Parks commented on Facebook saying, "They begged for that beatdown. I am grateful for the whole story." As you can see her comment here and a picture of her here as well. Now, this is where things are going to get a little spicy. Before I say anything else, I will say that the white guy here probably deserved to be punched in the mouth because, as you saw in the clip, he struck one of the other people first, even though they were kind of, squaring off and kind of lightly trading punches, but no contact was made. And I've also heard rumors, I can't verify them, that he was using racial slurs towards these men. So if that is the case, yeah, I definitely think he probably deserved to be popped in the mouth. With that being said, I don't think that it should have resulted in, multiple other men beating him to the ground and curb stomping him in the way that you saw in that clip. Now, this is not the first of events in recent history of rowdy black men, teens, causing causing a bit of a scene at a public gathering. On July 4th, there were several black teenagers that set off fireworks and firecrackers at the Red, White, and Blue Ash Festival, which is like a big music festival in Blue Ash. It's like a suburb of Cincinnati if you're not from the area. And because of that, several people ended up getting hurt in the chaos that ensued. So I'm saying all that to prime this. And again, if it is true that the white guy from the jazz festival was using racial slurs and obviously you saw that he struck one of the other people first, probably deserved to get punched in the mouth. Now, this is going to get controversial here. It seems to me that a large majority of America is getting fed up with this rowdy kind of behavior largely stemming from the Black community, which I've heard being dubbed Black fatigue. And before I say anything else here, just to, make sure that I don't know, lefties will take anything out of context. So, for those with some common sense, I guess, um, I'm going to make it blatantly clear that I condemn all forms of racism, especially white nationalism and white supremacists. And you can go back a couple months ago when there was a white supremacy rally, demonstration, what have you, just outside of Cincinnati, where those retards set up their stupid banners on a bridge and were there with rifles and caused a whole scene. I condemned them then. I condemn it now. I do not support that kind of mentality. I think it is horrible, and there's no place for that in America. Now, what do I mean by Black fatigue? I mean that people are growing tired of Black culture promoting this kind of behavior and taking no accountability for their own actions. From internet trends like the knockout game years ago, um, to which, quick little story, this girl I was dating years ago, her parents flew out to Vegas for a weekend or whatever, and her dad actually was hit by somebody playing the knockout game. So there's that for you. Um, so you got that, to the recent door kick challenge that I talked about last week, um, to things like, when an up and coming rapper, shoots a cashier at a liquor store in an armed robbery and then gets arrested because there's security video footage of him. And then you have all the people come out and immediately say, "Free Little Thug, baby, he did nothing wrong." Not that that's a real person, just making up a name. You know, most people would see that and be like, "No, he absolutely did something wrong. He stuck a gun in a cashier's face and shot a man over what, $92 or something." Like, that kind of stuff is getting really old to America at large. And most people are getting tired of this kind of shit and the constant victim mentality to justify people's actions. And before any criticism comes like, "Oh, you just, are you just whitewashing the history of America?" No, I'm not, because America has had some, dark spots in our history. I'm not dismissing the sins of America's past, such as, slavery that we had up to 1865 when the Civil War ended, the Jim Crow laws that came after that that enforced segregation, or other issues like the internment of Japanese Americans in World War II because of the, my God, I just lost the name of it. The D-Day attacks at Pearl Harbor. There we go. Sorry, had a bit of a Biden moment. I think those things should be taught, to which I am highly critical of President Trump's recent executive order called, quote, "Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History," end quote, act. Those things are American history, but among those stories are stories of non-white people doing amazing things, like Robert Smalls, for instance, who absolutely should have a movie made about him because his story is incredible. It would be an amazing movie if a Hollywood studio or even an indie studio, but for that matter, took his story and just went with it. Like the Outsiders movie, they essentially just took the book and was like, "Here's a script, make the movie." So if you don't know who Robert Smalls was, he was born into slavery in South Carolina in 1839, and he escaped slavery by stealing a Confederate ship and sailing it through a Union blockade. Little context: he was forced to work on this ship under a Confederate, not general, but someone in the Confederate Army. So he knew the ins and outs of how this boat worked, and he stole the guy's clothes, used all the right hand signals and signals for the boat, and sailed it right through the Union blockade. He was obviously got his freedom after that, and Later on, after the war ended, he became a Republican politician and eventually saved enough money to buy his former slave owner's home. How gangster is that? And this is just one of many examples of a black person in America doing something extraordinary in the face of extreme adversity. And I could go on and on, man. You know, there's been plenty of athletes. Mike Tyson, he grew up in a really rough way and then became a world champion boxer, albeit he had issues in his adult life, you know, ranging from financial or personal and things like that. But he absolutely overcame adversity by doing something about it. You know, Jimi Hendrix, he's renowned across the world for being an amazing guitar player. Um, Tiger Woods, black man, great golfer. LeBron James, I don't know much about his childhood, but he is a household name because of his achievements that he did in life. All these people did something with their life extraordinary and put in the work to do it. Again, I am not dismissing the sins of America's past, just making that blatantly clear. So, how do we fix this kind of thing? In my opinion, we need to stop incentivizing single motherhood. There have been study after study after study, and statistics have shown that children who grow up without a father are far more likely to end up in a life of crime. Also, I think there needs to be a culture shift in the black community at large, especially with this victim mentality to justify any actions that anybody does. You know, because if the I'm not going to even no, I will say that if the roles were reversed, the white people would be like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?" You know, especially with the Rodney King thing that happened in the '90s. Like, you know, four white police officers beat a black man. Like, yeah, that's completely unacceptable. And the fact that they got off from that is wild to me. Um, and if you want somebody to look up to in today's America, I would recommend looking up Kalian Noir and Maj Toure, both black men who have started businesses. They are very well educated. They are passionate about the Second Amendment. In fact, Kalian Noir is a lawyer, so you know he's done something with his life. Maj Toure, he is an entrepreneur. Both of these men make content online and educate people on things like firearm safety, responsible gun ownership, your rights as an rights as an American citizen, and history of the country, both good and bad. And I think if people follow their content and you know implement some of the things that they teach in their daily lives, they will be better people. Um, and finally, well, this will kind of roll into the next segment, but if people follow the things that Kalian Noir and Maj Toure talk about, we will have more good guys with guns stopping psychos in public, which will kind of roll into the next story here. But finally, to put a fine point on this, people need to stop electing politicians with a soft on crime mentality because we've seen in real time how those kinds of policies destroy a city. See Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia. I mean, I showed a clip a couple weeks ago of a major shootout that happened in Philly during the 4th of July weekend. So, yeah. And just to wrap it up, again, I am not condoning white nationalists or white supremacy at all, and just want to make that blatantly clear. Okay, I I mean, again, leftists will take anything out of context. So, yeah, if you're still watching, thank you, because this is something that is definitely controversial in today's America. Now, rolling on to the thing I just teased up a second ago. Here are two stories of and two reasons people should have guns. I'm sure by now you have heard about the stabbing incident that occurred at a Walmart in Traverse City, Michigan. The assailant there stabbed 11 people with a folding knife. So, you know, think of something similar to this, just a simple pocket knife. that can fold and be put right in your pocket. Not that it was this exact knife, just this kind of knife. Um, that guy, by the way, was a white guy that went into Walmart and stabbed people. And he had multiple prior arrests, including 2 convictions for assault and battery, aggravated assault, destruction of property, as well as several involuntary hospital stays for mental health issues. Now, he was stopped by a man named Derek Perry, as you see here. This is Derek Perry, who is reported to have been in the Marine Corps and had his concealed carry weapon on him. And Mr. Perry stopped this crazy dude in the parking lot as he tried to get away, as you see here.
Drop it! Drop it! Throw the knife that way! Throw it away! Throw it away! Hey, he hasn't dropped it. Put it down! Fuck back. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I don't care. Lay down! You better get the fucking ground. Nope.
Now, Mr. Perry, in my opinion, is an example of yet another person to look up to because of the situation. And one more example of a good guy with a gun in the right place at the right time. Now, just one quick little critique. Don't hold your pistol kind of sideways like he was. Being in the Marine Corps, I think he should have known that. But, that's just a little critique. Always hold your guns properly. That's what I'm saying. That's for another day. Now, moving on. This next story also gained a lot of media attention. A man named Shane Tamura committed a mass shooting in Manhattan, New York. Apparently, he drove from Nevada to New York to commit this heinous attack. Regardless, it is unknown at this time his official motive for doing so. However, some conspiracy theories are already floating around that he was a pro-Palestine guy, although that has not been officially verified, that he was targeting the NFL office because a note was found in his pocket talking about the NFL and stuff like that. He might have also had CTE, brain damage, because apparently he played football in high school, but never went out to college, I think, or the NFL. So that's weird. And people are even speculating that he was targeting Blackstone, the big financial company, since they recently gave a huge donation to Tel Aviv University. Regardless of what his motive was, 4 people were killed, one being a police officer with a wife, 2 children, and 1 more on the way, as well as himself after turning the gun and shooting himself in the chest. Now, I have also heard that he didn't want to blow his brains out because he wanted them to study his brain once he was dead. Again, don't know if that's true, just some weird stuff that I've heard. But despite the fact that a security camera, video camera, caught this picture of him walking casually up to the building, the media immediately reported that he was, quote, possibly white, despite the picture, as you will see here in this video clip.
Showing you here, John's reporting that they do know what he looks like. Male, possibly white, mustache, sunglasses, in that building, isolated to, they believe, to various locations, including upper floors, is where they're focused. What are you learning, Shimon?
Also, the communist Zoran Mamdani posted this tweet in the aftermath of the shooting. And like clockwork, several Democrats have already called for more gun control, including current New York City Mayor Eric Adams, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, whatever, who's a racist, if you don't remember, and others. Now, my heart truly goes out to the victims, and I also highly encourage all New York citizens to vote against Mamdani, since he's been very vocal about his disdain for NYPD, as you see here in this tweet, where he calls for the defunding of New York Police Department. So if somebody in that building other than a security guard was armed, this shooting could have been stopped earlier, like the shooting that happened at the Greenwood Mall in Indiana, stopped by armed bystander named Elisha Dickin. You can look that up. I think I've got a link of that in the description down below to see, that way you know what I'm talking about here. So this thing's getting hot. I'm taking it back off. Okay. Moving on. This is just a quick little one. A city councilman in Virginia named Lee Vogler was doused in gasoline and set on fire. Apparently he's a Republican. However, despite the rumors circulating that this was a political attack, it seems as if this was over a personal matter and not a political one. I think a woman was involved between Mr. Vogler and the assailant. So there might have been some romantic, what's the word I'm looking for? Romantic involvement here that caused the guy to go crazy and, throw gasoline in a match on this guy. All right. Moving on, a district court judge from Massachusetts has ruled that the Trump administration can't cut funds to Planned Parenthood, even though nationwide injunctions have been ruled unconstitutional, and the cutting of funds to Planned Parenthood were signed into law by both houses of Congress and the president. So since it was signed into law and this recent ruling stated that district courts can't do this kind of stuff, I think the Trump administration should just ignore this judge outright. And if they have a problem with it, you can sue. I think that would be a pretty easy case to rule on, but what do I know? I'm just a dude talking on the internet. Alrighty. This cup's going to come into play here in a second. Now, more news about Trump. Trump recently secured a great deal with the European Union, which would apply a 15% tariff on both sides for cars and car parts, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors, which is a drop from 27.5% as of now. I think it was on our end going to the EU, so a drop in tariffs for us. Many other tariffs coming down on goods entering the EU from America, as well as the EU buying $750 billion worth of energy from us and $600 million in investments in the U.S. And you can hear President Trump talk more about this here.
It's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Together, their two sides make up a third of global trade, meaning going into their meeting, both leaders acknowledged that any deal struck between them would be huge.
If we are successful, I think it would be the biggest deal each of us has ever struck. So I'm very much looking forward.
Ever struck by anybody, that's true. When you get
the US president said they should know the outcome after about an hour, and right on cue.
So we have good news. We've reached a deal. It's a good deal for everybody, I believe. And I think you were saying this is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade.
It is.
It's a giant deal with lots of countries. Really the money for the food.
And in the nick of time, too. The European Union was just days away from being slapped with tariffs as high as 30%. With an agreement now in place, that will be lowered to 15%.
We trade 1.7 trillion euros per year. Together we are a market of 800 million people, and we're nearly 44% of global GDP. Just a few weeks after the NATO summit, this is the second building block reaffirming the transatlantic partnership. You are known as a
tariffs higher than hoped, but better than the alternative. Given Europe had warned in that scenario, a large chunk of transatlantic trade would have been wiped out. The deal was agreed here at one of his golf resorts in Scotland. He said it would be a great one for cars and have a big impact on agriculture. He said it would see the EU increase its investment in the US by $600 billion. buy $750 billion in US energy, as well as purchasing US military equipment. But there was bad news for any hopes steel and aluminium would be included, with 50% tariffs set to remain. Both were clear. It was about rebalancing the existing deficit, about fairness. It has to be accepted by the 27 EU member states, but should kick in on Friday, allowing both another victory lap or two before then. The congratulations and relief from the continent already rolling in. Victoria Innes, TRT World, Scotland.
Now, just the energy alone will cripple Russia, as the EU has been buying oil and natural gas for them for years now, despite Trump warning them about that before the Ukraine war even kicked off. And that is here, if you don't remember this clip.
The construction of a Baltic pipeline so that nations are not dependent on Russia to meet their energy needs. Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers. It has been the formal policy of our country since President Monroe.
Now, quick note, Trump just deployed nuclear submarines since Russia is threatening the West again. It is unsure if they are nuclear armed or nuclear powered, but it seems like saber rattling if I had to speculate. But also, if I were Putin, I would chill out, since we just saw what American stealth bombers can do. See Iran for that one. Now, while I will mock leftists for their doom and gloom predictions on Trump's tariffs, I will push back a little bit on the right when they claim that the economy's doing great. Because just seeing in my own personal life, gas prices in my area still continue to swing between $2.50 to $3.20 per gallon. My energy bill is still between $150 on a good month to nearly $300 on a bad month for a house that is just under 1,000 square feet, when I remember it was around $100 a month in 2020. And groceries are still roughly where they were when Trump took office a second time. So until these prices change for the better, I'm not going to completely jump on this bandwagon of Trump's economy is doing great. We're doing gangbusters. Like, okay, yeah, stock prices for things might be going up. People's portfolios are probably doing good. That's all well and good. But when everyday things like that are still, where they were when Biden left office, going to push back a little bit. Now, speaking of stocks, man, that was a great segue. Congress is trying to push the Pelosi Act again, which is an acronym for which I don't remember, but essentially it would ban future politicians, including the president and vice president, from trading stocks while in office. And that is why I said that this cup would come into play here in a second, courtesy of the Drinking Bros podcast. Shout out Jander if you're watching right now, which I know you probably are. Now, Nancy Pelosi was recently asked about her stock trading, and to which she said the following.
Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider.
Now, Trump initially liked the idea and even threw Nancy Pelosi under the bus by accusing her of insider trading.
Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. So in that sense, I'd like it, but I'd have to really see I study these things very carefully, and this just happened. So I'll take a look at it. But conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated, because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made. And she ought to be investigated.
But then turned on Josh Hawley, claiming that he is siding with the Democrats in this recent post on Truth Social, which says, why would one Republican, Senator Josh Hawley from the great state of Missouri, join with all of the Democrats to block a review sponsored by Senator Rick Scott, and with all the support and with the support of almost all other Republicans of Nancy Pelosi's stock trading over the last 25 years. The information was inappropriately released just minutes before the vote, very much like sabotage. The Democrats, because of our tremendous achievements and success, have been trying to target me for a long period of time, and they're using Josh Hawley, who I got elected twice, as a pawn to help them. I wonder why Hawley would pass a bill that Nancy Pelosi is in absolute love with. He is playing right into the dirty hands of the Democrats. It is a great bill for her and her husband, but so bad for our country. I don't think real Republicans want to see their president, who has had unprecedented success, targeted because of the whims of a second-tier senator named Josh Hawley. Yeah. Weird how Trump keeps flip-flopping on stuff like this. Where was I at? My notes here. Okay. So with all this being said, you can tell which politicians are in office just to enrich themselves and not for the purposes that we sent them there for, such as Ron Johnson, as he had this to say in the past.
We make it very unattractive for people to step up to the plate and run for office or potentially serve in office. I tried hiring a retired CFO many years ago. This after the passage of the Stock Act. Would have been great. I could have had somebody really expert in international taxation, that type of thing. I could not find anybody willing to do it. So this piece of legislation, really, it's legislative demagoguery. You know, we do have insider trading laws. We have financial disclosure. Trust me, we have financial disclosure. The press pays attention to it. So I don't see the necessity of this. I can imagine all kinds of unintended consequences. You could relabel this law, quite honestly, the Career Politician Protection Act, because it'll make it so unattractive for people to give up their business, sell it, unless some ethics committee says, oh, no, there won't be a conflict of interest. I mean, when we pass a tax law that lowers tax rates, we all benefit. It's just an inherent issue. So again, we have plenty of protections. We have the disclosure. This is a completely unnecessary piece of legislation. It's going to create all kinds of unintended consequences. Senator Scott just pointed out one of them, just one of them. So again, I voted no last time. I'm a strong no this time, even stronger this time.
And Dan Crenshaw, a.k.a. Eye Patch McCain, who also has said this in the past.
Vote for a ban on Congress members trading stocks?
Yeah, I mean, this is like number 1,000 on my priority list of things to care about. This is one of those stupid things that I've been dragged through the mud on. You know how much fucking money I've ever had in the stock market? About $20,000. And yet I've been dragged through the mud on this as if like there's some insider trading. I just sent a letter to Fox News, a threatening letter from my lawyers, threatening them with defamation because Jesse Waters had basically insinuated that I was insider trading. Of course, it's not true. You'd be more surprised how much little information we have. This is one of those bills that of course, yeah, people support it. Yeah, sure. Okay. Who cares? Because I barely have anything in the market anyway. Are there a couple cases wherein Nancy Pelosi has some very suspicious timing of her trades? Yeah. that has happened. But nobody else can point any other examples out. So sure, yeah, why not? Don't let us trade stocks. How about we'll just keep whipping ourselves. How about we don't make any money either? How about like just cut our paychecks? We haven't gotten a pay raise since 2008, even a COLA increase. So yeah, no, actually, no, yeah, this is a great idea. Let's make Congress a place where only the millionaires can actually afford to do the job. This is a wonderful idea. Let's just keep doing that, because and then some it's always some member, right, who senses the populist energy and then mirrors it, believing that this is what's going to help me connect with the people. Because what do the people want? Well, they want an easy button. All my problems will be solved if there's no stock trading. All my problems will be solved if there's term limits. Yeah, but if you think about any of these things for 5 whole minutes, you might quickly come to a different conclusion. Now, what I vote for? Yeah, sure. Who cares? Who cares? Like it doesn't matter to me because I don't have any fucking money to put in the stock market.
Yeah. So when you have politicians who say things like that, they need to be voted out because they are clearly in it to enrich themselves and not have the best interests of the American people at heart. So moving on, Kash Patel apparently found a bunch of documents related to the Russia collusion hoax tucked away in like a secret room or something. And they were apparently in burn bags. Now, these burn bags apparently are meant for documents that are meant to be destroyed, specifically ones that are of, classified material and things like that. So it's weird how documents about this fake collusion were meant to be destroyed and never successfully destroyed. But with the recent heat coming on to Obama, James Comey, Brennan, Clapper, all those people, I imagine that Barack Obama and those involved in this are a little more scared about their own future right now. However, there's been no updates on the Epstein client list from the Trump administration at this time. But speaking of Epstein, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is trying to force the release of the Epstein files.
Old and little-known law, known as the Rule of Five, to compel the Department of Justice to release the full and complete Epstein files. Under federal law, when any 5 senators on the Homeland Security Committee call on the executive branch must comply. Our request covers all documents, files, evidence, and other materials in possession of the DOJ, the FBI, related to the case of United States versus Jeffrey Epstein. While protecting the victims' identities can and must be of top importance, the public has a right to know who enabled, knew of, or participated in one of the most heinous sex trafficking operations in history. Let me remind everyone of what's happened in recent months. Donald Trump campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. He broke that promise. In February, FBI Director Kash Patel promised during sworn testimony in his confirmation hearing he would, quote, make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened. Well, that has yet to happen. A.G. Bondi said in February that his supposed, quote, client list, she said, was sitting on her desk right now to review. And she said that's been a directive by President Trump. 5 months later, we have 0 answers, only more questions.
While I want answers about Epstein and those he was working with, it's funny that now the Democrats are trying to get this stuff released, even though they could have done it when Biden was in office. And this is really the only thing that the Democrats can hammer Trump on. So don't believe that they are doing this for justice sake. They're doing it for a political win for their side. And if I know I played that clip last week of Jeffrey Epstein saying he had a personal relationship with Donald Trump and all that stuff. But also, I think that if there was any dirt on Trump being involved with Epstein like that, it would have came out during Biden. However, to flip-flop on that again, that would have also possibly, what's the word I'm looking for here? It would also threw a lot of Democrats under the bus too, so they probably kept it from coming out to save their own ass. I don't know. But speaking of Democrats, Kamala Harris has dropped out of the California governor race. She said, quote, "In recent months, I have given serious thought to asking the people of California for the privilege to serve as their governor." Harris said, quote, "I love this state, its people, and its promise. It is my home. But after deep reflection, I've decided that I will not run for governor in this election," end quote. Now, I'm not sure how many bottles of wine she drank to come to this conclusion, but this is arguably the smartest thing that she's ever said or done. But because of her decision to drop out of the California race, many people are speculating that she may try to run for president again in 2028. However, she has denied this, and there is no evidence to suggest that at this time. Now, taking a hard shift away from politics and going more to cultural things, Visa and MasterCard are pushing video game marketplaces like Steam, which is a an online marketplace for video games for PC. In case you didn't know, Visa and MasterCard are pushing these platforms to ban adult games, which I have linked here below. This is happening in the US. It is happening in the UK, in Australia. And apparently there's a group called Collective Shout, which is an Australian feminist anti-porn group that is putting pressure on the credit card companies. People in the UK are apparently getting around this because the UK recently passed a bill called like the Online Safety Protection Act or something. But they're getting around this by generating or they're proving their age or whatever by using a game called Death Stranding and using that as like their facial recognition or whatever. Now, while I agree that children should not have access to porn, I disagree with the enforcement of it in this manner. Kind of how we saw with New York, they have extremely tight gun laws, but yet somebody drove across the country and did something which completely invalidated their laws. Similar kind of deal. You know, they have these laws in place in the UK, but people are finding ways around it. It's almost like, you know, making things illegal doesn't keep people from doing it. This is also a perfect example of a slippery slope. If credit card companies can pressure other companies like Steam to ban small, unknown, and albeit weird games, it will snowball to bigger things in the future, essentially crippling an entire industry. You know, if you have a game company that is making a game that, say, Visa and MasterCard deem too radical, then boom, it can get banned. This also reminds me of when Visa and MasterCard, or I don't know if it was exactly Visa and MasterCard, but credit card companies were trying to not allow people to use their credit cards at gun stores in America, even though the stores are ran by licensed FFL holders. They're doing everything by the books. Everything is legal, but yet because Visa and MasterCard had a political bent to it, they said, nah, you can't do it. And I think they caught a lawsuit because of that. So, as well as Visa and MasterCard trying to do this with video games, Spotify is beginning to require users in the UK to do a facial scan in order to listen to explicit music and podcasts. So, kind of like the first story we talked about, I don't think we need laws and government regulations or regulations from companies like this. Monitor what your kids are doing and maybe don't give small children unfettered access to the internet. Like and maybe I'm speaking a little bit out of turn because I don't have kids. Okay. But even when I was growing up, when you had to log on to a physical computer like this to get on the internet, you know, my parents were always monitoring what we were doing, you know, and always told us growing up, don't talk to strangers on the internet. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. So, like, The internet's been around for a long time. Kind of in a similar vein here, to encourage a nightmare dystopia, I suppose. A new app called Gage, Gage, is being introduced as a workplace management software. What this is a workplace credit score, a social credit score, if you will. And this is another step toward a 1984 style future. What do I mean by this? Everyone has had a bad boss in their life that they simply can't stand. If that boss or that company has this app, that boss can simply downgrade your score, even though you show up to work on time, do your job, that kind of thing. But they just simply don't like you, and they can make your life a living hell, not only in your current workplace but future employment too, as other companies can use this app and see, what your score was at other places you worked at. On the flip side, if someone is a major kiss ass to the boss, but they're super lazy, unproductive, call off all the time, show up late, but they just kiss the boss's ass, or, maybe slide them a little bit of cash here and there, they can get their score boosted, and, people fail up the ranks, as they often do in major corporations. So, again, this is another tiny step toward a communist, 1984 style nightmare. And sadly, I think people will gleefully accept this in their lives without pushing back at all. So if your place of employment tries to use this, threaten to quit, because this will be bad for the future. Now, speaking of the future, Media Matters is on the verge of collapse ever since they tried to sue Elon Musk in 2023. Legal challenges have gone back and forth, with Media Matters running out of cash to pay legal fees. This all started when Media Matters sued Musk right after he bought Twitter, now X, because they claimed ads for major companies were being portrayed next to neo-Nazi content, causing those companies to pull advertising and thus affecting the income of the company X. While content like that is horrible, Media Matters purposely kept refreshing their Twitter feed to manufacture this stunt, and in the end, it seemed to have bitten them in the ass. So, good riddance. Don't let the door hit you, because, to quote Futurama, don't want to have to clean aspirin off the door. And speaking of ads, nature is healing, and we know because of the recent American Eagle ad. Here.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Or that they make your butt look amazing. Why would I need to do that? But if you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
You see what I did there, right? Hi, I'm Sydney Sweeney, and I'm from Spokane, Washington. I can work as a local hire as well, though, and I'm available for the American Eagle jeans campaign shoot.
Profile and hands, please. Thanks. We'll be in touch.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Next.
Leftists are upset over the American Eagle ads with Sydney Sweeney claiming it is Nazi propaganda.
I will be the friend that's too woke, because those Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ads are weird. Like fascist weird. Like Nazi propaganda weird.
My body's composition is determined by my genes. Hey, eyes up here.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very keens.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda. I also am thinking about like all of the young girls who are doing their back to school shopping right now at places like American Eagle who are seeing ads like this. Yikes. Also, American Eagle is mostly a brand that like teenagers to like young adults shop at, and so the fact that like this type of advertising is being used that feels so for the male gaze and so over sexualized, like I just don't like it. I don't like it even a little bit. Bro, and I haven't even mentioned the fact that this entire ad campaign that Sydney Sweeney is doing right now is incredibly reminiscent to the Brooke Shields Calvin Klein jeans ad campaign that she did when she was 14 years old. That was extremely over-sexualized and weird. Yeah. Why are we referencing that? Why are we referencing that? I thought we agreed that that was weird that they had her do that. So we got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman talking about her good genes in an ad campaign that is a reference to a 14-year-old Brooke Shields, Calvin Klein's ad campaign that we've all agreed was really weird and predatory. Yeah, I don't like this one. I don't like it. I don't like anything about it, actually. Nope.
Now, I don't remember the Calvin Klein ad that this person was talking about, so if it was creepy, then I don't like it. But however, Sydney Sweeney is an adult now and can make her own decisions, and it seems like she made a pretty good one here. Also, quick side note, this has been an ad tool for a long time. I mean, I remember the commercials for Hardee's and Carl's Jr. years ago when they had a very attractive blonde woman eating burgers, or sex sells. When you put a hot girl in an ad, people are going to want to buy your product or service. That's all there is to it. The company issued this response here, and this is exactly how they should have responded. And it seems like they saw what happened to Bud Light and thought, you know what? Let's do the exact opposite. And it paid out well for them. Their stock prices have soared. People have bought their products in mass. So good on them. I like to see the liberal tears. They make me sleep better at night. Now, to end this, a couple of fake apologies have come out, which are pretty funny as well, as seen here. Alrighty. And speaking of media, Stephen Colbert recently went off about CBS canceling his show, essentially daring his company to end it early, even though they projected it through like May of 2026, I think. Several other celebrities have chimed in on the matter, such as Jay Leno and even Judge Judy. Jay Leno said the following.
I like to think that people come to a comedy show to kind of get away from the things, the pressures of life, wherever it might be. And I love political humor, don't get me wrong, but it's just what happens was people wind up cozying too much to one side or the other. Why shoot for just half an audience all the time? Why not try to get the whole... I mean, I like to bring people into the big picture. I don't understand why you would alienate one particular group.
And Judge Judy didn't mince words either. Quote, I have very little reaction. When a show loses money, it gets canceled, end quote. So just like we saw with Bud Light, when you go woke, you go broke. End of story. And finally, I'm sure everybody's heard about this too. An 8.8 earthquake erupted near the eastern coast of Russia in the Pacific Ocean, resulting in a tsunami warning for Hawaii, Japan, New Zealand, and other places in the Pacific. However, the warning seems to have passed by Wednesday. False claims circulated that Oprah Winfrey blocked access to her private road, but after digging a little bit on this one, she doesn't even own said road. It's owned by like a like a nature preserve ranch or something like that. People were allowed to go through with local police directing traffic so as to not cause a massive traffic block and thus resulting in, a lot of deaths should a major tsunami have happened. But it seems like it wasn't as devastating as previously thought. So this is yet another example of checking the facts about a situation when people get spun up in anger about something. I have not seen that anybody died in Hawaii because of the tsunami. However, I think 1 or 2 people did perish in Japan and 10 were injured during the warnings when people were told to see around. Finally, to end on a little bit of humor, I suppose, a man was under the knife in Russia as the earthquake hit, and the surgeons had to physically hold him down to the table to keep him from rolling off.
Смотри, он чё. Михайловна отодвинула стульчик. Смотри, что
Он попадал там
А ты
что-то.
как что, держишь монитор?
Монитор держу, но
Так,
он
наш монитор,
он
наш
как
монитор,
давай
видишь,
болтаться,
где?
мы его потом
А наш
сняли.
монитор тоже болтался?
Болтался, мы его потом на пол поставили.
Молодцы.
So I hope that the surgery went well for him, and that he makes a full recovery, and that he has a funny story to tell drinking buddies in the future. So, thanks for joining and staying this long in the video. Hopefully I don't get canceled for this, but if people come after me, I will just respond how American Eagle did and leave it at that. So thanks for watching. Share, like, subscribe. I'll leave all the socials in the description, and I will see you all next week. Take care.